You wake up to a city that is already on fire, not with flame, with pressure, with the weight of millions of things happening at once beneath 8 meters of soil, inside a structure that holds over 1,000 chambers and has not stopped, not once, not for a single hour since the day the Queen first bit into this earth. You are not the Queen, you're a media worker, Atta colombica, a leafcutter ant, with a head roughly 2 millimeters wide, a body that weighs 4 milligrams, and a job description that would break most things twice your size. You maintain the structure, you keep the walls standing, you are, in the most literal sense possible, an engineer. The city does not care. Before your legs finish their first full movement of the day, your antennae are already reading the tunnel around you. Not with vision, it is pitch black this far underground, as it always is. You read it with chemistry, with pressure, with vibrations that travel through packed soil, the way sound travels through water, differently than you would expect and carrying information embedded in frequencies a human ear would never register. What you detect is not good. The tunnel to the third garden chamber, angled northeast 40 centimeters below the main arterial passage, has changed. The air coming from that direction is wrong, higher in carbon dioxide, lower in oxygen, carrying a humidity signature that means the soil above it is saturated. Last night's rain found a weak point in the chamber ceiling. Not a collapse, not yet. But the soil up there is holding water, it was not built to hold, and it is getting heavier by the minute. You turn toward it. There is no central command in this city, no foreman with a clipboard, no queen issuing work orders. The queen's job is reproduction, and she lays thousands of eggs per day. The city's intelligence is not in any individual ant, it is in the system, and you are part of the system, whether you understand it or not. The tunnel is narrower than the main passage. You navigate it through contact pressure on your legs, tracking the scent signatures left by every ant that has passed through in the last several hours. The chemical record is dense. Others have already detected the same problem, already begun responding. You can feel the vibrations of digging ahead. Mandibles on compacted earth produce a specific frequency. You know it without knowing you know it. You reach the damage point. The ceiling of the connecting peduncle, the narrow passage that links the main arterial tunnel to the garden chamber, has developed a crack approximately the width of 2 ant bodies. Saturated soil is weeping through it, slow and heavy, carrying fine particulate that will harden into the wrong shape if allowed to set. The chamber beyond is intact for now, but the approach is compromised, and every forager who carries a leaf fragment to that garden passes through this peduncle. If it fails under load, and it will fail under load because the colony never reduces traffic, not for damage, not for rain, not for anything, the chamber could destabilize from below, which means the garden dies, which means one more growing site in the colony's food supply is gone. Your body knows enough of this. You press your mandibles into the wall just below the crack, testing resistance. The soil is softer than it should be. You begin excavating. Small pellets, formed precisely by the shape of your mandibles, removed in a motion that looks simple from the outside and requires specific biomechanics from the inside. The right angle of approach, the right torque, the right release point. Each pellet weighs approximately 4 times your body mass. You carry it backward, deposit it in the passage behind you and return. You're not alone. 2 other workers are already here. A third arrives while you're on your second load. The excavation rate increases non-linearly with each new arrival, not because anyone is directing anyone, but because the act of digging produces stridulation vibrations that travel through the substrate and call reinforcements without language, without intention, without any individual understanding the full scope of what they are building together. Workers also stridulate when buried by a cave-in, attracting rescuers to dig them out. The same signal, different emergency. The vibration does not know the difference. The repair takes shape without a plan. The damaged wall section is removed. The saturated soil behind it is extracted pellet by pellet and carried toward the dump zone, the area 4 to 6 meters from the fungus gardens, where the colony deposits everything it cannot use. The exposed wall is rebuilt from the same soil, now properly packed, moisture assessed by direct contact, structural integrity tested by pressure applied through bodies and legs. A rebuilt wall is not as sound as one that was never damaged. It is sound enough. And sound enough is what the colony has always worked with, because perfection is not the goal. Continuity is the goal. 47 minutes. The peduncle reopens to traffic. You are already moving to the next problem. The main arterial tunnel is experiencing what a human observer would call a traffic emergency. The foragers are returning. This happens every morning. The night shift has been working the canopy above since before dawn, moving in columns along trails maintained as carefully as any road. Trails that can extend more than 100 meters from the nest entrance. Each forager carries a leaf fragment cut to match her own body weight, a biological optimization that emerged over millions of years without anyone choosing it. Now they are all coming back, hundreds, then thousands, funneling into the same entrance points, all heading for the same garden chambers. The bottleneck forms at the junction between the main arterial passage and the branch tunnel leading to the two newest garden chambers. Under normal conditions, the branch handles two-way traffic. Under current load, it cannot. Laden foragers from the surface cannot pass unladen ants heading out. The system degrades. Fragments drop. Chemical signals from dropped loads create a confusing layer on the tunnel floor that miscues workers in both directions. You are not a traffic controller, but you are here. You begin clearing the passage, not by directing other ants, since you have no rank, no authority, no signal that means stop or move here, but by physically removing debris generating false signals. Leaf fragments dropped by confused workers, soil tracked in from outside, dead material with no place in a transit corridor. You carry it toward the dump zone. You return. Other workers join the clearing. The signal layer simplifies. Traffic sorts itself. Laden workers to the center of the trail, unladen workers to the edges. The lane separation is not enforced. It emerges. Within 20 minutes, the junction is flowing again. Not perfectly. Well enough. The deep chambers are different. Below the main garden zone, below the brood level, below the humidity and temperature gradients that the colony maintains by constant architectural adjustment, the tunnels narrow. These are passages from earlier growth phases, bypassed as the colony's geometry evolved. They still serve a function: ventilation. Differential pressure between higher and lower entrances draws fresh air through the system, the way wind draws through a building with windows open on opposite sides. Block these channels and carbon dioxide from the fungus gardens accumulates in the lower zones. Elevated CO2 slows the fungus. The fungus change triggers workers to relocate it toward better ventilated spots. Relocation triggers excavation. Excavation modifies the airflow. The problem corrects itself through behavior, with no individual understanding the mechanism. After last night's rain, two of the deep ventilation tunnels are blocked. The blockage is sediment, fine particles carried in by water pressure, settled into low points where the gradient works against drainage. You clear the first blockage and move to the second. The tunnel is too narrow for multiple workers. You clear it alone, pellet by pellet, while a second worker waits at the junction to carry each load back toward the surface in relay, part of a transport chain that can involve up to 12 ants moving one load across the full distance, none of them tracking the whole journey. There is a moment in the deep tunnels when you are alone. Not socially alone. The chemical presence of the colony is everywhere. But physically alone, no other ant within contact range. The vibrations from the garden chambers are muffled here. The only thing you can feel is the earth, and the mandate encoded in your body to make it hold. This is where the city becomes something most humans would not recognize as a city. No city hall, no map, the largest leafcutter nests ever documented, covering tens of meters across the surface, containing nearly 2,000 chambers, were built without a single individual who knew what the finished structure would look like. Each chamber emerged around brood or fungus relocated to a new spot in a tunnel, workers digging outward until the space was sufficient. Each connection appeared because traffic created a scent trail that other workers followed and widened through use. The city is not designed. The city is accumulated. You restore the second passage and press your antennae to the wall. A faint pressure shift. A slight chemical change. The circulation is restored. The garden will not notice. The queen will not notice. The tunnel works. That is the only metric that exists down here. By late morning, the rain damage is contained. What the colony lost overnight: one compromised peduncle, two blocked ventilation passages, one section of foraging trail that will need clearing before the afternoon run. What the colony gained, saturated soil in the eastern expansion zone has softened, which means the workers scheduled to extend the tunnel network in that direction will find the digging faster, the pellet formation cleaner. Damage and opportunity arrive together in this city. The eastern expansion begins around midday. Repair is reactive. You go where the problem is, fix what is broken, restore what existed. Expansion is different. The trigger is not a decision. In the days before this excavation began, workers in the most crowded garden chambers began relocating fungus fragments outward, depositing them at spots in existing tunnels where temperature and humidity fell within acceptable range. Brood followed, and wherever brood landed in a tunnel, workers near that spot began digging outward, shaping the soil into the geometry of a functional chamber. Flat bottom, domed ceiling, walls curved inward at the right radius. The new chamber emerges around the thing that needs to be in it. It does not exist first and then get filled. It grows in response to what it is meant to hold. You work the new peduncle connecting the expansion chamber to the arterial network. This soil out here has not been worked before. Inconsistent density. Harder where root systems have compressed it. Softer where moisture has pooled, occasionally interrupted by gravel that requires detour. A group of 40 workers in good soil can excavate several cubic centimeters per hour. The new chamber's target volume is roughly 22 liters, not a measurement anyone decided, but the amount of space that will emerge when the brood and fungus inside have enough room and the digging signals naturally weaken. No one decides when to stop. The material in the chamber tells the workers when to stop. Late afternoon. The cutting teams return from the second foraging run. Leaf material moves through the system as it has for 50 million years, fragmented by foragers, carried to the garden chambers, chewed into pulp, deposited as substrate onto the fungus culture, broken down into nutrients that feed the colony. The fungus is not decoration. The fungus is the point. Every tunnel, every chamber, every hour of excavation, all of it exists to protect and feed the fungus. Without the fungus, the colony starves in days. Without the colony, the fungus has no substrate. 50 million years of mutual dependency, and neither side has ever found a way out. The garden chambers are full. You pass through the main garden on your way to the day's last task, a check on the refuse zone. The dump chambers are positioned 4 to 6 meters from the fungal gardens, not by plan, but because the conditions wrong for fungus are right for waste decomposition, and the colony's behavioral logic has sorted these zones through the same process that sorted everything else. Pathogen contamination from waste reaching a garden could collapse an entire culture. The architecture prevents it. Not through intention, through accumulated response to what happened when it didn't. Everything in this city is a response to something. Nothing in this city was decided. You're back in the main arterial tunnel when the next damage report filters through. The northwest surface entrance has partially collapsed. Not from rain, from traffic. The constant passage of loaded foragers has eroded the wall at the critical compression point. The opening is still functional, but reduced. Under peak load, it will create a bottleneck at the point where the colony is most exposed. A traffic jam visible from above is a structural advertisement of vulnerability. You turn toward it. Your body is 4 weeks into its adult life, somewhere in the second half. The lifespan of a media worker runs between 40 and 60 days. Your mandibles are not as sharp as they were in your first week. The cuticle at your joints carries the microwear that accumulates with this kind of labour. You're not slower, not in any way the colony's signals can detect. But the wear is there, in the work, in the resistance of the earth against mandibles that have been pressing into it, hour after hour for weeks. The entrance repair takes 30 minutes. The geometry of an entrance tube is not arbitrary. Too wide, and it loses the flow properties that guide traffic. Too narrow and it blocks load-bearing workers. The angle of descent matters for drainage. The surface lip matters for rain dispersal. You do not know these specifications as numbers. You know them as the difference between soil that feels right and soil that does not. The entrance is functional. The city does not say thank you. The queen adds more eggs before you finish your last task. Those eggs will become workers who need chambers. Those chambers will need tunnels. Those tunnels will need maintenance. And somewhere in the network a wall is already softening and will need attention by morning. Tomorrow's list already exists. You will not see it until your antennae find it. This is not a flaw. This is the system. A city that plans ahead can be wrong about the future. A city that responds to conditions as they emerge. Growing in directions that work, stopping in directions that fail, repairing damage as detected, expanding only where brood and fungus signal the need. This city cannot be wrong about the future because it does not commit to a future. It commits to now. And now again, for as long as the mandibles hold. The largest ant nest ever recorded was not designed. It accumulated, one peduncle at a time, one cleared junction, one media worker, 4 milligrams, mandibles in the soil, carrying a pellet that weighs 4 times her body, depositing it somewhere above, turning around, going back. For 60 days if she's fortunate. The city will not remember her. It never needed to.